can see we've got the army. And of course, with all of them hooked into the same frequency, we can in fact, you know, just dominate everybody. We can turn everybody, turn please. Perfect. Perfect. We'll just go this way. Amazing. Guys, can we line up? Can we line up? No, can we? Mini cubes don't. They're not very accurate. What's up, guys? My name is Khan, and we're back today in Scrap Mechanic, and we're back with a useful part in the mod pack, and that is, of course, the new RC part. This is, well, it's been added with the number logic as well, but I figured we would take a little bit more in-depth look at this block today because the devs have now patched out the remote control glitch, or the old method of doing remote control. In case you guys don't know what the remote control glitch, it really simply was a glitch where you could put a block down, and then you could put a bearing in between the block, like so, and another bearing here, and then another bearing, and then, you know, just like this. And you can see we'd have, you know, a system with two bearings in the middle, and we could actually connect stuff across this from this block to this block, and by deleting this block in the middle, the connections would still stay just because of the way the two bearings were set up. Now, unfortunately, that has been completely patched out. You can't do that anymore. And so with the mod pack, we can actually still do remote control creations. So you can see here, we've got a yellow remote control block on frequency 30, and it's set to transmit mode. And then we've got another yellow one here set to receiving mode, also on frequency 30. And if we get in this seat, you can see we can go forward and backwards, and that'll spin that motor. And then we can, of course, go left and right with a few different methods of steering, but they both work there, you can see, quite nicely. So I figure in this episode, what we'll do is we'll make a little simple car. We'll look at how this setup here works, and then, of course, we'll look at a little bit more advanced of a setup, which is this setup here that gives us the same thing, WSAD, you can see on 4 things, but it also gives us the ability to do an individual button, and we could expand this out to support 39 buttons going through a single transmission, so that's kind of awesome. So we'll look at how this works as well. This is going to be a bit of a tutorial just to sort of explain it. I know when I first got the remote control block and started playing around with it, it was a little bit difficult to understand, and it did take a bit to sort of figure out how to do it. So in case you guys do want to make new remote control creations, I figure this tutorial will help and really just sort of, you know, address any issues that you guys are having. So with the new remote control block, we've actually got a few different things. And so it's important to know that the remote control blocks, they have 2 different modes in each one. And if you click E, you can see it switch between the 2 modes by that little icon there. But it's between transmission mode and receiving mode. So they both have to be in opposite modes. You have transmitters and receivers. If you have multiple transmitters on the same channel, they'll screw each other up. So you got to be very careful about that. And the color of these blocks matters. So for example, blue transmitters will only talk to blue receivers, purple to purple, and so on and so forth. Now you can see they're both set to channel 0 right now. And if we want to change that, really simply, we just place down one of these counter blocks and just connect them into that. Now the counter blocks do have to be painted white, or any actual number block. You don't necessarily have to feed it the counter block, but you can see the counter block is quite easy to do, because if we use a couple of tick buttons here and just hook 2 of them in, then we can easily just change the channel by tapping the buttons up or down. So you can see we can tap this one, go up in channel and down in channel. So we can set this one to, let's say, channel 5, and we'll set the receiver to channel 5 as well. So now they'd be talking to each other. And that, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be this counter block. Again, it could be a number block as well if you wanted to do it that way and have, you know, a number block hooked into it. But it is important that it's painted white. White dictates the channel. The other 39 colors can actually be used for sending and receiving data if you'd like to do that. You can have 40 different colors of transmitter on the same map if you wanted to, but then you can also have tons of different channels. I don't think there's an actual limit to the number of channels you can have on a single color transmitter. So you could have one white transmitter, but you could have like 30 different channels on it, let's say, and 30 different transmitters, and none of them would interrupt each other. Really simply, if we want to make just a really basic car, we'll actually just take this assembly off here, and we'll put that on an actual vehicle. So first thing we'll do here is we'll put down a driver's seat, and we'll hook that directly into the RC block. Now, it's important to note that the RC blocks can only send 1 piece of information per block. So for example, the driver's seat WSAD is 1 piece of information. If we want to send a button through it as well, we need a second transmitter, or we'd have to use the second method, which we'll show in a little bit. But if you want to do just a basic car that has WSAD control, you can use a single block and just hook the seat directly into it. So let's just build a really simple car here. So we'll just put, you know, a concrete frame, nothing too fancy, put some wheels on the side of it, This is going to be possibly the best car I've ever done in Scrap Mechanic. With the steering, we're going to do double bearing steering just because it's easier with the 2 controllers to do it that way. And you can do it, of course, with tank steering as well. The mini cubes use tank steering and they still use remote control blocks. And you can see here we've got our basic remote control car. Now, of course, we need to put a remote control block on it as well as a counting block on it so we can set the channel of the remote control block. So we got to have this dark gray. Put this on receiving mode. There we go. We'll put a little simple counter block down here as well. And I think we're on what, channel 5? Channel 5, perfect. So there we go. We've got that one set. And really simply, this one we can actually hook straight into the motor. Believe it or not, it can go straight into the gas motor. And the WS, oh yeah, I guess we have to increase our motor power. That would help. But the WS, you can see, will actually go straight into the motor, no problem. And it works directly off the seat. So that's fantastic. Now, to do the steering, it's a little bit different. There are a few different ways to do the steering. First off, you're going to need the math block as part of the mod. So you're going to need this math block here. And of course, we have no real room on, we'll do the steering at the back here. So we take the math block and we set it to the AD converter, which if we look at it, looks like a steering wheel with a left and right. Here we go, this one right there with the left and right. And we just hook the RC block straight into that. Now, this steering mechanism will actually output a signal of -1 or +1, depending on if the A or D block is active. So we can actually take this and hook it directly into an electric motor if we wanted. And that would actually steer the electric motor left and right. The only problem is it won't zero, it won't center the wheels again, right? So it'll turn the wheels in one direction, they'll stay there until you turn them back in the other direction. And you can do a whole complex system where you're measuring the angle that the wheels are at and create a centering mechanism that way. Or you can just do it with 2 controllers. So to do it with 2 controllers, really simply, we have the steering input and then we put a math block on either side. And we do these as a greater than, less than sort of situation. So we can set one to be greater than. Of course, we've got to just click a bunch. And another one to be less than. Doesn't really matter which is which. We can always just flip the inputs. There we go. Now, you'll see the white and black dot. Again, this has to be painted white. We connect it over to the 2. And then we just have to compare it against something. So we can actually just put a number here, which by default is 0. And lo and behold, we connect that into the 2. So now, if we turn the one direction, you'll see it lights up the one side. And if we turn the other direction, it lights up the other side. So there we go. We've got our steering converter. So once you've got your comparison set, you just put a logic block on either side as well and just kind of connect it through that. I'm sure you could go straight to the controller, but whenever I try that, it seems to screw up. So we'll just go like this, reverse a couple of those directions. And if we turn to the right, it goes to the left, which is super useful. And if we turn to the left, it goes to the right. So we'll just reverse all these. So now you can see we've got a very basic remote control car using the RC block from the mod pack. Very, very simple. It's completely WASD controlled. You can see, we can just drive around no problem, go in reverse. And it really works out quite well. But of course, if you wanted to add a button, like I said, you'd have to either add a second receiver on a different channel, which we could do, of course. We could have a second receiver here and put the button going into that, or we'd have to look at a different method of doing the logic to send more data through the same channel. So right now, this channel is basically sending WASD from this seat. So any dark gray receivers on the map on channel 5 are going to receive whatever this seat data is. Now, we could just simply put another one down like this, and then just put a button into it like so. And, have this one as dark gray channel 0, let's say. And now whenever we press this button, we're now sending a 1 signal through that. And we can, of course, have that respond on here. So, for example, let's just put a second receiver here. This is channel 0. We'll set it to receive. And I don't know, let's have it shoot a spud gun. Why not? Why not? Let's just do that. So we'll just put a spud gun on it. And we should be able to actually just hook that straight into there. And if we hit 1... you can see there, we can actually fire the spud gun. So this isn't bad. We could have a receiver for every individual button that we want to do. But of course, a lot of you are going to say, well, I want to have one receiver that does it all. And it's just one receiver per creation. And that is 100% possible if we look at this second demo over here. Really simply in this setup, we've got the exact same thing as before. So we've got AD, you can see there where we turn that AD converter with the steering wheel icon, just converting it to the greater than less than signal. And then of course W and S, same thing, but they're being converted as well. They're being compared. The WS signal is being compared against the block. And then of course we've got a single button there, which then comes out on the other side. So what this is actually doing is it's taking all the information from the seat. So we've got the seat being compared against a 0 block, and then also going through the AD converter and being compared against a 0 block. And then as well, taking the button input and sending it to this number block here. And all these number blocks, these number comparisons, feed into logic gates, which in turn converts them to a binary number. That binary number is then fed into this single number block here, which in turn gets sent to this transmitter as a single piece of information. This, of course, just being the channel of that transmitter. But we can actually send all this information through one number block, and we could expand this out even more. We could add more and more buttons as long as each one is a different color. And the colors basically all represent different digits, and as it transmits the data into binary, it creates a unique code, which then gets decoded on this side through these number blocks. So it's really a really simple system, and we'll set up a really basic version of it right over here. Now, the only downfall with this method of doing things is that you can't actually have a WS straight connection to a single engine on the receiving end of things. If you want to have the WS go straight to a single engine and have that, you know, non-logic connection without having to do double bearings, then you'd have to actually do two remote control blocks. You'd have to have one for the WS on the engine and then another one for all the button inputs that you want to do. But if you want to just do it with, you know, tank steering or anything like that, or if you don't have a problem doing double bearings on your RC creations for forward and backwards and having two different engines, then you can do it this way with a single transmitter, and it's pretty simple to do. So again, we've got a yellow one here on receiving and a yellow one here on transmitting. So we're going to lay down a couple of comparison blocks really quickly. So let's get the math block out, and we'll do this for W. We'll just lay these up so it's easier to see. WSA. We'll do WS there. We'll do A and D here. And then we can do a bunch of number blocks out here for the various things. So we'll put a straight white block here. This is just, of course, to have a base 0 comparison, because all we're doing is checking if it's greater than 0 or less than 0. So we just put a greater than block, a less than block, and so on and so forth. All right, so we've got our 4 comparison blocks, really simply greater than, less than, less than, and we just need to wire those all into this 0 comparison here. So now they're all going to compare against 0. And then on the one side, we need a math block, of course, to have that AD converter for the steering wheel. So we just take that, hook it up, no problem, like so. This one, perfect. And we just hook that into both of those comparisons. And then we hook the seat into all 3. So the seat WS comes out of the seat by default as a number and goes straight into these comparators. And then the AD gets converted here and then comes out here. So you can see A, D, W, and S. So we've got all the functions of the seat. And then, of course, we just have to convert them into a binary signal to send them back into this box here. So to convert them into a binary signal, we're just going to place a regular logic gate like so, and we'll paint them all different colors. We'll just start in this second row. It doesn't really matter, though. We'll go like this. Perfect. Just like that. And then we'll feed all these into here. And then, of course, all these have to feed a single number block. So now it'll take the sum of all these numbers here, and it'll add them all together into this number, and then it'll take that number and send it into this signal as a piece of data. So that's basically, you're kind of encoding everything into one sort of packet, and then you're sending the packet, and then the packet is getting decoded on this end. So this is your basic WSAD, you can see here, and as we actually change the controls, you'll see different numbers will appear on the number block, and it's actually the combination of the binary code that we're sending it. So it's a little bit different, but that number you can really just ignore. It doesn't really matter. And then on the other end, all we have to do is decode it with the exact same information. So we take the number blocks, and we have 4 of them here. Got to make sure we paint them the same colors. So it'll be purple, this pink, red, and then orange, right? So we've got them all painted the same colors. You hook them all back out from this, and then it'll take the number. It should bring out the individual places. But then, of course, we want to bring them back to being logic signals. So we take them from the number and we convert them back into binary. So it's kind of like, you know, in here we're encoding it, and then here we're decoding it back from the number. And you can see if we go left, right, forward, and back, each one will light up with the 1 or the 0. You could, of course, feed them against a comparison block, like a math block, and say, hey, is this 1? Is this not 1? But you'll see we're actually taking the number, the binary number, we're converting it. And then, of course, if we want to add more and more buttons to this, really simply, you just add more and more logic gates. So we just add a few more logic gates there. We can have buttons, we can have switches. It really doesn't matter. So we can do this. You know, let's put just a button and a switch. Why not? Of course, feed those back into the same number gate, and we give those a different color. We'll go with the blues now. And you can have basically as many of these as you want in any different color you want, with the exception of the white, because the RC block treats white as a channel. We'll just, again, decode these on this side. So we'll go there and light blue, dark blue, and we'll just put them back into regular logic gates. You obviously don't need to paint these logic gates. And let's try this again. So, oh wait, of course, I guess it would help to actually have these hooked up into the seat. Now you'll notice in the seat, there's these 1, 2, 3. So when you hook the WS and AD converter in, for some reason, the game sees them as block connections. So you might want to hook them in last if you want to have actual buttons on your RC stuff. But here you can see if we press 4, oh, I guess I need to hook these numbers in. That would probably help. There we go. Perfect. So now if we press 4, you can see it lights it up. And if we turn on the switch 5, it stays lit. And we can still do all the other controls because it's still creating a unique piece of information every time it goes across. It's like the potato internet, you know, where we've got 6 bits here now, and we're feeding those 6 bits across. So if you're doing RC creations, you want tons of buttons, you want to use a single transmitter receiver combo, this is the way I would recommend doing it, which of course gives you full control. Now you just have to do double bearing setups, but of course you can now wire these logic gates into just about anything you want, engines, controllers, whatever. And it's not that bad of a setup once you get the hang of it. You know, doing the WS converter is a little bit difficult, but once you get the hang of setting this up, it's really quite easy, and it really allows you to do awesome roll control glitches. And the awesome thing about this is, even if we take this, we cut it, we delete it, we move it, we weld this, whatever, all these inputs, outputs, they're all still active. With the old remote control glitch, as soon as you welded something or moved it, it wouldn't work anymore. But you can see we can weld this and it all completely works because it is scripted. So there's definitely a benefit there, which I encourage you guys, play around with it, try it out. You can try it with, of course, this method. And if you are doing something a little bit simpler, you can, of course, do it with just the straight WS method and make a really simple car like this, or, you know, use 2 transmitters just like this one. So of course, after doing this, I decided, well, you know, what do we got to do with the remote control glitch? Well, we have to have an army of mini cubes. There's nothing else that you could logically do but have a complete and total army of mini cubes. So I did a logic circuit very, very similar to this, using, of course, the Modpack here with the Modpack logic. And I made these super awesome, amazing assault remote controlled mini cubes that have explosives on the back of them. I think it's pretty cool. Each of these, you can see, are set to black frequency 1 for receiving. And we've got our transmitter here with the same setup as before, a WSAD converter, as well as a single button to shoot these spud guns. You can see we've got the army. And of course, with all of them hooked into the same frequency, we can, in fact, you know, just dominate everybody. We can turn, everybody turn, please. Perfect. Perfect. We'll just go this way. Amazing. Guys, can we line up? Can we line up? No, can we? Mini cubes they're not very accurate. Guys, I need you to straighten up. Okay. So of course, this isn't very practical. Why have 5 of them all on the same frequency? Well, that's a great question. And the beauty is, it's not just, you know, there's no connections between them. So you can see we can actually just spawn more and more and more and more of them. And as long as we have them all on the same frequency, there's really no limitation. So let's see, this is black 1 receiving. That's good. I think that's the default. And you can see, perfect. We can actually just keep commanding a larger and larger army of mini cubes. And, you know, this might not be practical, and I kind of agree with that. So let's just, okay, 1's still alive. Of course, it's not really that practical to control all of them all at once, but I figure, why not have a bunch of mini cubes, and we could take these mini cubes and we'll in fact just have them all on individual frequencies. So the cool thing about this new RC stuff is you could have a bunch of different RC creations all being controlled by the same central platform. You could have one type of platform, so let's set this one to 2, this one to, not to 2, let's set it to 3, and let's set this one to 4. And we'll leave this one on control 1. So we can actually have this platform here. You can see we've got it set to channel 1 if we zoom in there. And we're controlling channel 1 way on the outside. And if channel 1 got blown up for whatever reason by, like, I don't know, channel 2. Oh, I think I went in the wrong direction there. Channel 2. Perfect. This is channel 2, I guess. Is this channel 2 or are we channel 3? Oh, that's channel 3. Where's channel 2? Oh, you're channel 2. Okay, so you can see here we can actually just control each one individually. You'll just slide this way. Perfect. We can hit a button and just switch to channel 3, hit another button, switch to channel 4. And you can see really, really cool how you can use the RC glitch in ways you could never do it before. With the old remote control glitch, you could, I guess, do this, but you'd have to have all your creations glitched together and it would just be really difficult. And if you wanted to put one on the lift, it would completely break and just would be completely useless. But, you know, even if these ones get half destroyed or whatever, or welded, you can still use the RC however you want, and it's really quite awesome. So I encourage you guys to check it out and really try it out on the Modpack. So, of course, I will upload this little seated platform here to the workshop. It's kind of useful. It's, you know, good for controlling stuff that has just WASD and then a single button. And I will upload the mini cube that pairs with it. The mini cubes are great. I encourage you guys, you know, download it, and you can just paint the RC receivers a different color. So let's say you could be like the red team versus the blue team, and you could have a bunch of different robots each and fight each other. And these robots are really, really great. They've got the spud guns lined up on the front to shoot each other. And, you know, if you hit each other in the back, it'll blow up the other robot. And just really a fun time trying to shoot the... Or you can apparently just shoot him in the front enough and just completely blow him up that way. But really, really cool. I'm really encourage you guys to check it out. And of course, if your robot does blow up, you know, just switch your channel. Go on to a new one. I think once you start playing around with it and hooking up different circuits, it's not as bad as you think, and you'll realize that there are some things that are nice about this compared to the glitched RC method, which was of course the fact that, you know, putting stuff on a lift or welding it was just a pain in the butt, and the ability to control multiple creations from one main station is just going to be super, super useful. So I encourage you guys to check it out and let me know in the comments down below what you think of it. And of course, if you want to see more tutorials on some of these extra logic functions in the mod pack, let me know about that as well. I know there's a lot of different things that you can do with the mod pack number blocks and with the math comparisons. I'll definitely be using it for some more complicated creations because it is super, super powerful to be able to do quick comparisons like this with really large numbers, and of course encode a lot of data in such a small space. But let me know what you guys think, and while you're at it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.